Hello? I've just shot somebody. I did it on purpose. I said I have murdered a man and I want to confess.
Yeah, just like the whole last, 10 minutes.
The whole last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And this is probably, if you're listening to this, the music's probably fading down right
Yes.
now. Because the rest of what we just talked about has been cut out.
Yes, thank God.
Yeah.
Not that it would matter because, she doesn't.
Sure. Listen. Well, anyways, today we're talking about Last Action Hero. This movie came out in 1993. It was directed by John McTiernan. The writers for this was Zach Penn, Adam Leff, and Shane Black. So Zach and Adam, they wrote the story. They came up with a concept, and then Shane Black wrote the screenplay. So you have Shane Black, John McTiernan, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. There's no way this movie was going to fail.
And it really didn't.
It kind of did, though.
It did. You say that, but
it lost money because, it spent so much on, first of all, the budget and then the advertising for it. It ended up losing money, and it kind of just got forgotten about thanks to some dinosaurs.
Yeah, but it was such a great movie. Though.
It was. And if you have this type of cast, it shouldn't have failed. And that should tell you something about, because if you know what happened to it, which we'll get into, but it should not have failed, and that's what I want to talk about, and talk about
the non-failure.
The non-failure?
Yeah.
Well, talk about how it would have fared in today's world, that type of thing. So before we get to that, though, we have a top 5 list to do. We just did this real quick today because we haven't done one in a couple episodes. So these are our top 5 action heroes. And so not actors, but these are top 5 action heroes in movies. And we're talking about the characters that we like. All right? So what is your number 5?
Okay, my number 5 is going to be Bruce Willis as John McClane.
Okay, so John McClane.
Yes.
John McClane, number 5.
Nice.
Yep. So, okay, in our tradition, we have one the same. We both have John McClane as our number 5. I don't think we really need to talk about why.
Yeah.
We'll just go through the list.
Bruce Willis as an action star in general. We could say that, too. You know what I mean? Just almost every one of his characters are action. Even in his comedies, he's action.
Bruce Willis?
Yes. Like not the Longest Yard, the
Whole 9 Yards?
The Whole 9 Yards.
Such a creep movie.
It is.
Who's your number 4?
Number 4, let's see.
Did you do your list?
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
Number 4 would be I didn't know we were going to go from 5 back. I forgot that we did that.
The whole world does it that way, Andrew.
Yes, I know. Okay, here we go. Number 4 is Chow Yun-fat, Ah Jong in The Killers.
Okay. So his character in The Killers is your number 4
correct.
action hero.
That's what's taking me so long. I'm going to have to remember what their character names are. Yeah,
I got you. Okay. So, all right, just because of the action in it, because of his journey, his hero's journey, something like that?
Yeah, he's just an assassin, and he does this role so well, and it's very iconic.
The Replacement Killers?
No, it's called The Killer.
The Killer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a delusional assassin accepts one last hit in hopes of using his earnings to restore vision to the singer he accidentally blinded. Okay, so he's an assassin, like a retired assassin, but he does one more job.
John Wick.
Yeah, basically. But this film, and I really would love to do this film, but on the podcast. But it's in 1989, came out in 1989.
Oh, okay.
But it's his iconic thing is where he's wearing this like white suit, but just like with almost a Hawaiian shirt on.
Is that
from Chang from Community?
Community, yeah.
Yes, and where he's got the gun and he's got the cigarette.
And they pay him like the dean pays him to go in.
But it's not a cigarette. I mean, and Chang's not a cigarette. He doesn't have a cigarette. It's like a candy cigarette or a sucker or something. And so he's got that's very iconic look.
Oh,
and
okay.
So
that's where that's from. Okay. All right. Well, my number 4 is T-800 from T2. Okay. I like the one from Terminator 1, but T2, that's where it's at. I love the action hero. He's got a journey, depth, and the sacrifice and everything. So that's my number 4. What's your number 3?
Ripley.
Ellen Ripley.
Are you serious?
Yep. We both have Ripley on number 3. That's really good.
Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I got number 3 at Ellen Ripley. I mean, what more can I say?
I mean, come on now.
My top 2 are like the movies that I watched on repeat when I was younger, just over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But number 3, she just stands out. She's so badass in all 4 movies now that she's been in.
Yes.
So was she in anything past Alien Resurrection?
No,
I
don't think so.
1, 2, 3, and okay. Okay, so what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon.
Martin Riggs. I got number 2.
Nice. That's crazy.
We only have our number 4. That's
I know my number 1 is
that'll be different, but that's crazy. Yeah, I got number 2. I got Martin Riggs too because I mean
enough said on that one.
I mean, when I was younger, I used to like act that out and everything.
Yeah,
I mean, I just love those movies so much. But, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Bruce Lee on Lee in Enter the Dragon.
Okay. Enter the Dragon. That's the most famous one where he's in the mirrors and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not a huge Bruce Lee. I don't know a lot about him or anything like that, so I have to watch more of his movies. My number 1 is Jack Traven from Speed.
I that would be an honorable mention for me.
Honorable mention.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there's probably a couple that we could say, like Neo, if we wanted to get into those.
Keanu Reeves is an awesome action
John Wick.
actor in general. I mean, Point Break.
Come
on now.
Johnny Utah from Point Break.
That's what I'm saying.
And I mean, there's many from Arnold to pick from. I mean, one of the things I want to get into with this is that Arnold, he doesn't really do and I know you're going to disagree with me on this. But I don't think he does comedy well as somebody else. So, like, the comedy that he does, it's Arnold. What makes it funny is that it's Arnold doing it, the things, right, and all the things. But this is self-aware. This movie is self-aware.
Right.
It's Arnold, and he realizes he's being played by some guy named Arnold. Mm-hmm. And it's a cheesy action movie that they're just all laughing at anyways. Or I mean, it's an action movie, so you still have it as an action hero, but he does the comedy well because it's self-aware. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Now I know you can make arguments about Kindergarten Cop, Twins.
My personal opinion is Arnold is naturally funny. Was born funny. I think that the action side it's like a costume for him in a way. You know what I mean? Like, I think Arnold's true calling was comedy or action comedies even. I mean, you could combine the two, but I really feel like his true calling was comedy because he just does it so naturally. Like, it's because he's really kind of an idiot in a way. You know what I mean? Like not really like, I mean, granted, became the governor, all that. I get all that. You know what I mean? But it doesn't say a lot in that sense. I mean, I'm not saying he was an idiot, but he
said that he...
Okay, I take that back.
He's an idiot. 2 minutes later. Okay. I'm not saying that he's an idiot.
I take that back. He's naturally funny because, not so much he's an idiot, but he's not from America. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't raised with American ideals. It's like watching what's his name? Oh my gosh.
Sylvester.
No, the French guy
Oh, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Okay, Jean-Claude Van Damme is not from America, not born and raised in America. So his idea of 80s and comedy and dancing in the 80s, like, I mean, there's famous memes with him that involves his dancing, but that's the same kind of outlook at it.
That is
an
awesome dance, by the way.
Right, it is. But you can really know somebody that was like, hey, this person, you know, the way they act, their mannerisms and everything else like that, born and raised in America. Not saying it's any better or any worse than any other country. I mean, well, I think America's the best country in the world, but
right.
What I'm saying is that, you know, I'm not trying to insult. It's not an insult to them. You know, it's more just because of it's not something they can help. You know what I mean? And Arnold's just funny no matter what he does. You know, even you watch him in the first Predator, right?
Yeah,
when
it's Dutch.
Yes, I mean, he was trying to be like, oh, I'm tough, but it was hilarious,
like the manliest handshake in the world.
You son of a bitch.
Yes.
And I think we've done this before on previous episodes because I remember cutting that clip in. Too.
Yeah. He's just, even in his action movies, Terminator,
but
obviously.
Come on, man. Okay,
you know?
look at Jingle All the Way. Look at...
I love that movie.
I know, I love it. Look at Kindergarten Cop, love it. Look at Junior, Twins, all these comedy movies that he does. It's it's the absurdity, right, of this giant.
Because he's an absurd human being.
There's so many jokes within the movie about his size and how big he is and all this kind of stuff. Or
because that's his outer self in a sense. I think that's his costume.
I know,
but his inner self is the comedic genius in his own right.
But I mean that's kind of like the cheating aspect.
He's not an idiot, by the way. I just want to make that a point, right? I don't think he's an idiot. I just think, like, you know how when people act idiotic, you know what I mean? Like, I act idiotic. Yeah. Everybody does.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the kind of thing I was talking about. I didn't mean he's an idiot.
No.
You know?
Obviously, nobody thinks that. But I'm just saying, like, in those other movies, it's absurd because it's this type of, you know, this person who looks like he does and speaks like he does in these other roles. And it's kind of like you're thinking of the Mr. Universe and the Terminator thing and everything. Terminator was really close to what, you know, lining up with that. But it's the absurdity of it being Arnold doing these things, and Last Action Hero is the only one that gives an excuse for that.
Well, he makes fun of himself all the time in that movie. The whole movie is him really kind of clowning on himself.
His last name
even
right,
his
and then
own.
When they say Schwarzenegger, he's like Gesundheit.
Yes. So not even, you know, it's making fun of his characters because we get that. We get bits and pieces of that, you know, of his different characters from different movies. But he's making fun of his characters, his personal, actual, real self. You know, so and obviously he thinks he's a character himself after, you know, he figures out this is real. You know, he's like, okay, now I'm making fun of myself. So it's like he's breaking the fourth wall and the fifth wall.
The ceiling.
Break
that glass.
Break that glass.
So this movie was released against Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's a bummer. I think it was it the same weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was either the same weekend or the weekend after it. And Arnold, I think, was one of the ones that was trying to get it moved like 4 weeks earlier than Jurassic Park. That way they could at least have, you know, a good you know, some kind of a good return or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of back and forth about what was the reason, why, all this kind of stuff. For whatever reason, this movie didn't hit and stay as hard as his other ones did because he was just doing hit after hit after hit. And then Terminator 2, that was right before this. And it would just, you know, I mean, that was the pinnacle, really.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it had problems because, you know, Jurassic Park overshadowed it. And, you know, once everybody saw Jurassic Park, they, you know, because, and there's a whole story in that we need to get into when we do Jurassic Park. But, you know, the just a little bit is... nobody thought that the dinosaur movie, as they called it, was going to do very well. I mean, they started out trying to use animatronics and stop motion claymation for the dinosaurs and everything. So everybody was just like worried. But then they experimented with this new CGI stuff and were able to get a moving dinosaur with the practical ones so that they didn't have to do the...
Plus, if you think about it, because this movie should have hit real hard because... It's Arnold in the early 90s. So he's still at like top form.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So this film should have done way better than it did, but for the simple reason that a dinosaur movie nobody thought would do great end up popping up, and they were like, it's Arnold in the early 90s. It's a film about him being an action star in a movies. How can we go wrong? How can we not make a buttload of money on this?
So, and I know that meta movies existed back then and everything. I don't think they were very popular, but this is one of those very meta movies where I think it just kind of flew over a lot of people's heads. Not that they didn't get it or whatever, but it just wasn't of the time. You know, in that time, it was more about the straightforward stories, the dramatic settings and the beautiful settings and the dressings and all that kind of stuff. But if you look at where we are nowadays, where we have things like Stranger Things, being set back, a tribute to the 80s or whatever. And
which I love, by the way, and is my favorite part, that these clothes that these kids were wearing, I was wearing, yet smaller versions of this stuff, but I love it.
Action Hero?
No, in Stranger Things. Yeah. I love that show because of that reason. It's nostalgia, and I remember wearing some of those clothes and seeing that carpet and seeing that furniture and those cars. I mean, I grew up
in those cars.
I grew up somewhat in the 80s, so
yeah. That's what I'm saying is that you have Stranger Things. It's a tribute to the 80s Final Girls movie where, they go into the movie. Yeah. And that was a tribute to 80s slasher movies, and more specifically Friday the 13th.
My daughter keeps wanting me to watch that, and I'm like, it just doesn't find any interest.
I didn't either. I was kind of like, it is a great movie. Was
that the one with Emma Roberts?
No.
What's that one with Emma Roberts? It's a newer one. It's like Scream Queens. That's the one that she wants me to watch.
Isn't that a TV show, though?
Yes.
Scream Queens is a TV show. But,
yeah.
But anyway, so if this were released today, you have all that other nostalgia that's coming back. You have a generation of kids and young people that are into memes and YouTube shorts and GIFs and all this kind of stuff. And so this is taking pieces of pop culture. If a movie came out today where they were spoofing 80s and 90s action movie stars, right? And you had Arnold Schwarzenegger, it obviously wouldn't work with his age or whatever, but if you had it come out now and it was spoofing those movies back in the day, it would be received so much better, I think, today, because people get that meta concept of, they would react like Danny would react. Like, it doesn't really affect him. He kind of freaked out for a second, but he's like, okay, now let me tell this guy that he's in a movie and I'm in a movie and all this.
Well, Supernatural did a meta episode like this. They also did a what is it called? A Scooby-Doo episode where they went into the cartoons kind of thing.
Okay.
And then, like Stay Tuned, the movie that we did a podcast over, that was kind of meta.
Yeah.
And
Ready Player One.
Yep.
There's so many different things where, you have those
Wreck-It Ralph.
That's become popular.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. He knows that he's a character in the game or
exactly.
whatever. Toy Story with Buzz Lightyear.
Yep.
I mean, you just all these different things.
It's about these formulas that I keep talking about too, and that I keep bringing up. That a lot of movies will use a certain formula. It's like there's a book of formulas of how to do a movie, and you pretty much just go through it.
Here's how you do a meta movie.
This is how you do this one. This is how you do a true 80s slasher. This is how you do a remake of an 80s television show with like Stranger Things. Instead of
trying to make one like that, you be self-aware about it and acknowledge in the movie. Hey, yep, we're in on the joke too, guys. By throwing that stuff
exactly,
in there. So it's not corny or cliche or something.
That 70s show is doing it to itself by doing that 90s show.
Oh yeah, that's true. And Girl Meets World after Boy Meets World.
Yep, and Saved by the Bell. How many times did they redo that one?
But I guess these are more like reboots or whatever.
Kind of, I guess.
Revivals or whatever. But I don't know. So that's what I'm saying. You have people like Zach Penn, who became a real famous screenwriter in his own right. John McTiernan, who wrote all these movies, directed all these great movies. And then Shane Black, who has written all these great movies like Lethal Weapon and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and Iron Man 3 and all these different things. So you have all these. It should have worked. So I think that's the best type of meta-type movie you could make in that time. And it still wasn't received well. But I think if that came out today, looking almost exactly like it did, maybe updated, special effects or whatever. But, I mean, it still looks great. And if you had that nowadays, I think it would be a lot more popular. That's why I think people should go back and watch it, because it's on Netflix right now.
Well, here's
back and watch it.
Here's the thing. I know it's rated PG-13. That was a joke in the actual film that we just watched.
Right. They couldn't say cuss words.
Yeah, they couldn't say cuss words. I think because it was a PG-13 movie, you had somebody like Arnold in it, and it was PG-13, but nowadays you kind of look at it like maybe it shouldn't have been PG-13, maybe a little bit higher or something like that. But I think the mix with having a child in the film and somebody like Arnold and the type of basis where it's just borderline PG-13, I kind of feel like that maybe
Terminator 2, was that PG-13?
I don't know.
It's kind of the same thing. You feel like that what?
I just don't feel like, I think that wasn't a good formula for him to have a kid in this type of film. I mean, I understand having a kid with something a little bit less edgier, per se, and maybe a different kind of actor, or having Arnold with, a younger 19-year-old or something like that, somebody that's a little bit older than the kid in this film.
Yeah.
I think that it just didn't really, maybe it was a little bit too much for some people.
Works in Terminator, but maybe not in a comedy.
Well, I don't think it really should. I don't think that should have been PG-13.
Maybe it was R. I think the director's cut, like the extended cut that you can watch, I think that's R.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that was kind of
in that.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. So the writers of this movie, they were inspired by The Simpsons, in that The Simpsons is kind of a send-up of the Modern Family program, but while also being itself a Modern Family program,
Yeah.
It was criticizing the Modern Family tropes or whatever, or just being funny about it. And then this movie, it was being, it was a send-up of action movies while still being a pretty good action movie in itself, and having a pretty good driving story, at least interesting story.
Well, I think there's a very big, there's a lot bigger underlining story here. Like, I know what kind of story we're having, but it's like you said, the meta type thing. But in a way, it's kind of like his motivations as a kid, because he never has a father figure, right? So he looks at Arnold as being his father figure,
it's his hero.
before he even meets in there.
And not even Arnold, I'd say Jack. Like the character that Arnold plays.
Correct. Yeah. That's who he looks up to, because he doesn't have a father figure. Yeah, that's his hero. And he's a great protector. He protects everybody around him. He's genuinely a good guy. He's just somebody he can look up to, right? Yeah. And so he still doesn't have that, in his real life. He doesn't have that, so he wants that. And I think in a way that's kind of like the ticket new, in a sense, to meet this hero. But then it doesn't really end well in that sense. I mean, it ends well for Jack, but did it end well for the kid? I think maybe Jack got his confidence, because he was always scared about going out into. Oh no, he was crying right there at the end. Remember?
Remember we saw he was faking.
Well, yeah,
he faked that so he could take the dude out with a big gun.
Yeah.
But did you know Carrie Fisher was brought on to this to spice up some of the dialogue?
Really?
Yeah. So apparently she was actually well known back then for script doctoring.
Yeah.
And she'd, because look at how snappy she is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you've read any of her books, I've read a little bit of a couple of her books, and just you could tell her personality.
Oh, she's very comedic,
comedic, acerbic, but like witty.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, she comes from a dynasty, so
Debbie Reynolds.
So.
And actually, she
rest in peace, by the way.
Yes,
on both of them.
Both. She was actually brought on to the Lethal Weapon 3 script, and she was the one that introduced Rene Russo's character. In Lethal Weapon 3.
So they, so obviously the director is a fan of hers.
Yeah, I guess
because that's those two movies have in common, correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah, because John McTiernan, he at least had. Because I mean, I know it was what's his name that did Lethal Weapon movies. He also did The Goonies. Richard Donner.
Yes.
Yeah, but
definitely a Donner
I know
film.
Shane Black wrote the first one. John McTiernan was in there somewhere, but this, people said that this was kind of started his decline after this movie. I mean, he had True Lies after this, but that was really the last big action movie that people really cared, because he had his time, back in about from about the mid 80s to about the mid 90s.
Yeah.
That was like his sweet spot where he was releasing all hits, and pretty much everything he released was received pretty good, except for, like Red Sonya and
Well, I think he kind of got not
a couple others.
Not really softer per se. He just probably, it didn't seem like he was putting as much effort into his acting.
Yeah.
Around that time, I think that's what really made him fall off, because it just didn't seem like he was into it anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, the guy's been doing it and been in the spotlight for, probably 20, 30 years by this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, he's been in the spotlight most of his life, so it's kind of like these child actors.
In the 70s, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, he technically, in a way, was a child actor in a way, I mean, with his weightlifting and stuff like that, in a sense, he'd been in the spotlight since he was a kid, so
19.
Yeah, so it comes to a point where you get older and you're like, I don't really want to do this for the rest of my life kind of thing, and even though you got people asking for it, but, a lot of those true, quote unquote, true artists, they'll do it until they die,
Yeah. Yepers. All right. Well, do you have anything else before we dig into this? I do real quick. Charles Dance's character. Well, actually, we didn't even go over the cast. I went over all the other stuff. In this movie, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Jack Slater, F. Murray Abraham as John Practice, Art Carney as Frank, Charles Dance as Benedict, Frank McRae as Decker, the chief, Tom Noonan as the Ripper, Robert Prosky as Nick, and then who do we say? Ian McKellen we saw as Death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we one thing real quick.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we got to talk. We didn't talk about John Williams.
Last episode.
No, just the fact that he said he'd do like one more film. Yeah.
Are we talking? No, what are we talking about?
The composer. What's his face?
John Williams.
Yeah, I'm saying that right.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
Okay, the composer, right? Yeah, he said he's doing one more movie and he's done with movies.
Oh, okay. You're talking about news right now.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
because I know that in last week's episode we didn't talk about John Williams for Jaws.
Yes, correct.
So,
and I did want to drop that because I thought that was important news to know.
Okay, so
I should have said that at the beginning.
Do we know, like, has he picked one, or he's just saying, like, hey, I'll do one more?
He's going to do one more, and that's it.
He's got to do it for Spielberg.
Yeah. Well, I know he's got to do what is he doing right now? There's another film. What has he been doing lately? I heard he was going to do one more for something that he's already been doing. Not Star Wars. I don't know. What has he been doing lately?
I don't know. We can look that up. But yeah, one more. Well, Quentin Tarantino's doing one more too, he says.
Yeah.
Because, he said 10 and then he's done.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got one more left.
Well, he's been saying that since the get-go, though.
Yeah, but he's always had that goal of 10.
Yeah.
And we're about to hit that. He's only had 9. Hateful Eight was 8. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was number 9.
Still haven't seen that movie.
It's pretty good.
He fights Bruce Lee. I'm not a big fan.
He defends it pretty well.
Yeah.
And, we got his daughter and his family coming out and saying it. But then he's also talked about it. And I'm like, look, if you know this biographer, there are a lot of accounts of Bruce Lee that people don't know about. So, I don't know. You can look it up.
Yeah. But I don't know if that character's not even real, is it?
What character?
Brad Pitt's character?
No. I mean, this is all complete fantasy, but it's all based on what Quentin Tarantino has discovered through multiple accounts about Bruce Lee's ego and how he was backstage with stuntmen and how disrespectful he was to the stuntmen. Because stuntmen, they don't do real strikes. Bruce Lee would really tag him. And they didn't like him for that. So
Gotcha.
There's a whole thing about it that I kind of got into a little bit. But
probably because he thought it looked real or made it look real.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do this fake stuff. I mean, you're going to fight. But he
also has to realize that, or he had to have realized that he was in Hollywood. So
yeah, and I'm sure he doesn't do that all the time because, Jackie Chan used to be a stuntman on that.
Yeah.
An extra or whatever. But okay, so we got this kid. He's a 10-year-old boy, although Austin O'Brien does not look 10.
No.
I mean, he looks like maybe 13.
That's what I'm saying, like with the PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
technically he wouldn't even be able to watch these movies. So
yeah. Danny Madigan, played by Austin O'Brien, who was in Lawnmower Man, Lawnmower Man 2, My Girl 2, a couple other things. But, you know, he's pretty big back in the 90s, right?
Right.
You know, he did lots of things, but then he just kind of faded away.
Yeah.
I was going to say just like that other dude that was in It, that played Bill. He was in like the Sequest or whatever, Jonathan Brandis.
He killed himself.
Yeah, and that's why I stopped myself.
Yeah.
But yeah.
He committed suicide.
Yeah, him and that one dude from the Disney Channel that played Cyborg in Smallville.
Yes.
He was also in Rizzoli and Isles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
Sad. So anyways, basically his dad died not too long ago, and to distract himself from that, he takes solace in action movies, loves action movies, loves movies, tends to skip school for it because he lives in New York and his mom's full-time working. You know, he's got to get himself to school, so he always cuts school and just goes straight to the theater. And we have some old man there that contributes to this delinquency, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't tell him to get to school. He puts on a movie for him. And I just think that's very irresponsible of that old man.
Yeah, but that old man's probably at that age where he just doesn't really care, and he gives gives away a stupid a ticket that he said he literally got from Houdini, to a kid that just comes in, watches movies, and then he lets him in at weird times throughout the night. And
maybe maybe Houdini was part of that cult in the Now You See Me movie.
Maybe he was a demon. That old man was a demon, giving this kid a ticket like that,
or like,
yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, his favorite action movies are the Jack Slater movies. And in this world, Arnold Schwarzenegger exists as he does. In this world, everything else is real except for Danny and his life. You know, but everything else is real. You know, there's actors, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and his wife, Maria Shriver, back then.
Maybe we're in a movie because he became governor. Maybe we're all in a movie.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe we're in the movie. Yeah,
that does sound like a movie.
Bad episode.
Somebody call it The Governor.
And I'm pretty sure The Simpsons probably predicted that too. And then that's another thing. We've got auras here in the name of The Simpsons, who predicts everything in the future somehow happening.
That's true.
You know, we must be in the movie, and there's
real. Tell me we're not in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. If that's true, it's about to be over. He's not looking good.
Well, I don't know. He starts to look better. It's like it's to the point where he's de-aging.
Yeah. I hope we're not in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie because there's a lot of destruction. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a lot of. Remember, he said this is just a quote a little bit in the future, but it's a quote in the movie where he says, "Yeah, in this movie we only killed 48 people, and then in the last movie we killed 119."
And that was he's like, "I just really want to make sure that we're making these movies for." Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's like a meme or something that came out about that, like a news report that too many killings in his movies or something, and you know, it's almost like he kind of memed himself this entire movie.
Well, they say that there's a lot of Easter eggs for movie buffs in here if you could pick it up. You know, like the T-1000 passing the Terminator as they walk in and out of the police station, plus Sharon Stone from Basic Instinct walking out of there after her interrogation.
The T-1000.
Oh, jeez. It was probably that cartoon cat that interrogated.
Yeah, that was so random too, you know?
Yeah. We were talking about Charles Dance earlier, and you know, he played Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones, right?
Yes.
You know who was supposed to play his role?
Who?
Alan Rickman.
I could see that.
Because his villain was supposed to be an Alan Rickman type. And so since Arnold was playing a type like he usually plays, they wanted to get
I could see that.
Alan Rickman to play somebody like he usually
He would be a perfect villain because it would still be on the nose on that. Because, you know, it's like with him from Die Hard, you know, and him playing also the villain on this film, you know, making fun of other films and action films.
Alan Rickman at the premiere too, playing the bad guy. You know what I mean? He'd be on the red carpet with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That would be pretty cool. That would have been cool. Yeah. I mean, rest in peace to Alan Rickman too. I mean, we here at the Post Credit Podcast are super fans of his. So
super fans. Okay, so basically he's watching movies. He gets in trouble from his mom because she finds out that he's always watching movies. One time when he leaves the theater.
But does she really care?
She does, but she can't do much because she's struggling to do this by herself. She's working a lot. She works all hours of the day and everything.
And they got an apartment that apparently he gets robbed? Mugged in his own apartment?
Yeah, he gets mugged and they try to steal, but anyway, so I forget about that every time. I forget that he gets mugged, and then I'm like, what is the point of this scene? I'm like, well, it's not to make him stronger by the end so that he can take on muggers or whatever, which is usually how they set that type of thing up in the beginning. But
or Arnold being there when he shows up and him punching the guy in the face, telling him never to come back again, and then going back to his own movie again.
Yeah,
that's what you wanted to happen. But like I said at the beginning of this cast of Pod
big lives there.
Yeah. But like I said at the beginning of this cast of Pod, I am still with the point that he lost pretty much through the whole movie. Yeah, he didn't die, but he didn't have the best ending in the film.
Or beginning or middle.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was. There was a lot of stuff that was going weird. But then I remembered that the key was the purpose to have that. Remember when he throws the key in the toilet?
Yeah.
And then Danny has the key for later.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That was very... I guess it's supposed to contrast the glossy, fun, quote-unquote, fun world in the movie because it's bright and sunny in the bright, sunny L.A. in the real world. You can tell somebody from L.A. wrote this.
Yeah.
Because New York is the dark, gloomy real world. That's a terrible place where you can die and everything hurts. And glossy, sunny California... That's where the good stuff and the magic happens. I just thought the duality between those two.
Yeah,
really
and
cool.
you actually said it too when we were watching the movie was that that scene of New York is what we talk about when we talk about movies that are cast in New York back in the 80s and early 90s.
Dirty and grimy.
Like not the whole city. I'm just saying, the streets and
just lived in.
Yeah. I mean, because it's been around for so long.
Yeah, we have easier ways to, clean streets and do the upkeep and all that kind of stuff. But back then, all those streets just looked that way. And
dark, very, very poorly lit. And
I'm sure the films or the directors looked for places like that because they were more interesting to film in.
And not saying because, LA's kind of, as New York got cleaned up, LA seemed to get a little worse.
New York got a little bit cleaner and...
Yeah,
LA's
really
San
weird.
Francisco's
we're
down the toilet.
We're from the South, so it's.
Yeah, I guess we can't really talk about that, but from what I hear, San Francisco's not doing too well.
Yeah,
but anywho, so anyways, one of these times, the old dude says, "Hey, come back tonight." All right, creepy old man. Come back tonight, and I'll show you a movie, or I got a surprise for you. And so, like this, I'm saying, this old man that kind of these two are alone. There's a couple other people there, but he's like, "Come back tonight. I got a surprise for you." All right.
Well, at least it's not like
a little more cautious nowadays,
right? So at least it's not like The Pupil. Remember The Pupil?
Apt pupil or The Pupil?
The one where I think Ian McKellen was like a
apt pupil.
Oh yeah,
That's
where
a Stephen King novel.
Yeah, where the kid meets an old man, finds out he's really a Nazi and all this. Yeah, at least it wasn't. At least it wasn't one of those situations, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Come back. He's I
don't know.
Come look at my collection.
Worse though.
Well, come look at my collection. It's Nazi memorabilia or something. You're like, okay.
So the first sign that this is going to go bad is that when he gets there, the guy's dressed up.
Yeah,
in a costume, and you're like, okay, where is this going?
And where did the person that used to wear that costume went? As well.
Yeah, exactly. He's wearing one of these the
bellhops things,
or the aisle boy people that have.
That's what I'm saying.
What is it called? The person that guides people to their seats.
It starts with an S, doesn't it?
Chauffeur.
Whatever.
That's a C.
Yeah.
So one of those things. He shows up and he's dressed up as a bellboy, and. He takes him and he says he has this magic ticket that was given to him by Harry Houdini himself.
Well, because he makes a comment about Harry Houdini before he even presents the ticket, saying, "Oh man, you should have seen it. I saw it in my day." Blah blah blah.
Yeah, and he doesn't know what it's going to do, but he tore it. He's supposed to give him a real good experience, so he tore the ticket, put one half down in the little ticket box, gave Danny the other half. Danny takes it, goes into the movie, sits down, and he starts watching the old man's screening for him, the new Jack Slater movie, Jack Slater 4.
You might as well have been just giving him candy out of a white van.
Yeah, pretty much. Or, just sending him off to, so basically, he's watching the movie, and he sees the bad guy of the movie, quote unquote. It's really the head guy is not the main bad guy of this movie or of the Jack Slater movie, I don't think. But it's this Benedict guy who's kind of the right-hand man of the main guy, of the main mob boss guy or whatever. So they're threatening Jack Slater's second cousin because they've killed so many people in his family that's all that's left, except for the other one that we meet later. She's randomly alive. But everybody else, his son, all these other people, they've all been killed. And so the closest they can get to him is like, we know you know about Jack, you're his second cousin or second mother's cousin, or what does he say?
Well, it's... And what's funny about that too is that like they say that they went after his ex-wives and everybody else, but they never really said they went after the daughter, and we find out why. About halfway through the film.
What, about how prepared she is?
Yes,
yeah. So he watches this movie, and they're in the movie, Jack finds out that his second cousin or whoever it is was killed by these mob people or whatever, and he tells him to be careful, but then the whole house blows up. So anyways, this truck comes in a drive-by because I guess the plan was to lure Jack there, and these people start shooting at him, and he gets into a chase with him. He gets into his car and starts driving away, and the two other cops that were there with him get blown up and they die. And of course, Danny called it that they were going to die.
Yeah.
And as if the reference to Murtaugh wasn't enough, because he was like, what did he say, 2 days to retirement, and then we had to get the saxophone music that we get with Murtaugh in the Lethal Weapon music. Then
get too old for this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, he jumps into his car and drives off, and that's when a stick of dynamite comes through the screen, and Danny does pretty good acting here, I think, and looking pretty terrified.
But how did the popcorn make it go out?
No, I don't know if it was
well,
the
it just
popcorn.
Went, because he dumped his popcorn.
Oh, maybe it was burning through the popcorn, because when he was running away, it
did
kind of
blow
all
up.
turned into the fire and everything.
Yeah.
But basically, he runs away from the bomb, and he gets blown into the movie world, and he lands in Jack's backseat. I don't know why he wouldn't land in the truck's backseat. I suppose it's whoever was on screen when he went through before it switched back and forth.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
well, no. Think about it. What it was is the TNT went outside into the real world, and he replaced the TNT. Because remember, they were throwing the TNT into the car.
Yeah, but Jack shot the TNT, because that's what you do in
I know, but all I'm saying is that TNT, he replaced the TNT, I feel like. No, I mean, think about it. Like, the TNT came out into the movies. He went into the movie.
But there was no replacement when they came back out, though.
Yeah, but
remember Benedict?
Yeah, but you know as well as I do, movies sometimes
Oddjob.
just in the middle of the movie they'll change up the canon in the movie.
Is that the guy that plays Oddjob, by the way? It looked like him. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. So anyways, he goes in there, and Slater kills him just by playing chicken or whatever. He gets rid of him. He takes him to the LAPD, and the whole time Danny's saying, "You're in a movie, we're in a movie, what's going on?" And of course, Jack doesn't believe him and everything. He goes to his boss, and on his way to his boss, we get all the cameos. We walk by Sharon Stone and the T-1000, all that. So we get to the boss, and he starts asking, who is this kid? And the kid's like, got all this information because he's already watched like maybe the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie.
Literally told him, if they would have just told him about the villain, the guy, the partner, not the partner, but the guy that he went. Saved his life in Vietnam or something like that.
Yeah.
If Arnold or Jack would have believed him right off the bat, the whole movie would have been over.
Yeah.
You know, we've been like, okay, let's question you here real quick, and that guy probably would have freaked out and shot him. The movie would have been done.
Yeah, but it was so refreshing to hear Danny say all the things that, you know, we talk to the screen and say sometimes, you know. What's great about this is that he actually speaks for the audience, you know, and points out all the contrivances that we would, you know, like, okay, obviously he's going to be okay. Those two cops are going to be dead, and that's what happens.
Well, thank God he knew the rules.
Yeah,
you know, because there are
you know,
the rules
of a horror movie, and you have rules of an action movie.
Yeah.
You know, the hero can't die, and the hero can't really get that hurt.
But the comedy relief can get hurt, but not
Which
really
find
die.
out later.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, he speaks for the audience, points out the contrivances that we would, and by doing so, it affects the plot. You know, like we'd like to. You know, like we would like to have an effect and say, you know, no, go here and make the person do this, and they actually do it for him. So and then all that, and it gives us an acceptable reason to do so.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like how before they get to the station, when they bring the big gun out of the van, he turns to go off the bridge, but instead of turning right to where he would be blocking Danny to shield him from any bullets, he turns left, putting Danny in the line of fire as he goes out the bridge.
Yeah.
And it just kind of
somehow they go off the bridge, and there's like no true damage to this car after all it goes through. I mean, he's still driving this car around.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So what follows then is many different tropes and everything. You see a guy named Practice, and they make jokes about his name throughout the whole movie. It's just he's supposed to be that guy, you know. That's kind of a side character you don't think much of until at the end you find out something's going on. And Danny helps with that because he's like, dude, he killed Mozart, you know, in another movie.
Yeah.
But he's making the point that he always plays a bad guy.
Yeah.
I know that actor. He's always playing a bad guy. There's going to be something wrong with him, and he's going to betray you. And, you know, so just things like that are things that we would say. You know, how many times have we watched movies and be like, well, I know it's this guy because he always plays a bad guy.
Yeah. And you know who did this first, I think, this kind of formula for a movie?
Who?
I think...
Wait, which formula are you talking about?
This... You know, breaking the fourth wall kind of thing in a way, but just really kind of
this meta type of thing.
Yeah, this meta type of thing. I think who really you know, you got Airplane. I think Airplane truly like pioneered this way of kind of comedy / action.
At least the closest, because I mean that's more like a spoof, but yeah, like it's probably the closest thing we have.
You've literally got people that are in this movie.
Movie.
Yeah, you got people in Airplane like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is really Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the movie and, you know, in the story and everything, you know,
he's
and
a pilot, right?
Yeah. And then Naked Gun's another one just like it too, you know, that kind of
Naked Gun and Loaded Weapon.
Yeah, and Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah, Loaded Weapon was for Lethal Weapon, Naked Gun.
Rickman was in that one, right? He was Sheriff Nottingham in
No, Rickman was in the real Robin Hood.
That's right. That's right. Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Nottingham. I can't remember. I can see him in my head. I just don't know his name. Who plays the Nottingham character in this one, or in the Men in Tights one?
Yeah, with the chastity belts.
We're men in tights.
We're men in tights. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. When you're in a fix, just call for the men in tights. We're bunch.
I love that movie. I really do love that movie. I remember watching it. I was probably maybe
we may
14.
look like pansies.
And the chastity belt.
Out your light.
Remember she breaks out the
yeah. Because we were just watching it because I wanted to do Problem Child on here sometime.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how Amy Asbick plays two different characters. In part one, she's his really annoying wife.
Yeah.
Who runs away with the bad guy, but then ends up going missing. And in part two, she plays the girl's mom.
Yeah.
She's a completely different character, but she gets romantically linked to him again.
Right.
So it's just there's got to be like a list of movies that do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, so, anyways, he gets in there, and the whole time he's just pointing out everything that we would point out. You know, he's giving them information. He points them to the house where his second cousin or whatever it was tortured.
Yeah.
And where he
just so happened to be driving down the right street and everything.
Well, he knew at least it was on the beach somewhere, and so I'm sure he just told him, "Hey, let's go to the beach, and I'll show you where it is." And I think there was an overhead shot at the beginning of the movie. Maybe that helped or whatever. But so he's able to, and just by chance, he gets to talk to this Benedict guy, which automatically makes Arnold go, okay, well, something's going on here, and then you get the dogs doing the pyramid thing, which was stupid.
This is what I'm saying. It's the whole layout.
So, anyways, they eventually go to before they leave, the bad guy Benedict hears the kid talking about everything they talked about on the balcony at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. And so now the Benedict guy is wondering how he knows. How does this kid know what we said and everything? So Jack and them go to his ex-wife's house, which I think used to be his house and everything, and sees his daughter, says hi to his daughter and everything. And they're hanging out there, and because remember, he said, and this is for blowing up my ex-wife's house, and he slapped him on the hand. Sorry. But he...
And how they didn't die was just hilarious. You see them in the after it blows up, you see him sitting in the chair in front of his boss, in front of the chief or whatever, and they're just like, both of them are like, I cannot believe this just happened.
Yeah. So Jack goes and does the typical hero thing where you got to go mope and just stew, and what do they call it?
Emo?
Yeah, like when you have the mood where you're brooding. That's
brooding,
it.
Yeah.
The typical where the hero goes and broods, and he's upset because he lost somebody, but he's going by newspaper stands and magazine stands.
Yeah.
And, you almost expect a saxophone to start playing and everything, like the old school movies. But while that's happening, the bad guys come and track them down to his ex-wife's house. Uh-huh. And they take Danny and his daughter. What was his daughter's name in there? Bridget Wilson is her name in real life.
Sonya Blade.
Sonya Blade. Okay, so Whitney Slater.
Okay.
Whitney Slater's her name. So we got to keep track of these three names, all right? So, Whitney Slater played. Everybody else is different, but Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Detective Jack Slater in these movies, but Bridget Wilson doesn't play Whitney Slater. In the real world, apparently, in this real world, Meredith Caprice plays Whitney Slater, and that's played by Bridget Wilson.
It was almost like it was like an afterthought. They're like, hey, let's just put her in the movie. When they originally wrote the movie, they were just going to use her as like just a... maybe a character poster or something outside the movie. And then I think that they were like, well, let's put her actually in the movie or something.
And then, of course, like she's completely different from when she comes up. Remember, she answers the door and she gives somebody a kiss, and it's supposed to be some like
skeevy
school thing or whatever.
Skeever, I think.
And then she goes, oh, yeah, that's probably this guy. Do you think that was part of the original plot of the movie and that this interrupted then? It had to have been, right?
Probably.
Because then she's
like
dressed normal,
mid-movie.
But in like a minute, she goes somewhere and she changes into the sexy clothes with the hair all done and everything.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, this is a typical action movie.
Right,
this is how a pretty girl would dress or whatever back in those days.
She's lethal, though.
She is, and she starts beating up one of the guys. She's screaming the whole time. And when I was younger, I was like, why is she screaming so much? It always used to bug me. And I guess I just didn't realize she was just trying to hide the fact that she was beating him up. And she was supposed to be the one beat up, but... Anyways, he tricks the guys into signaling to Jack. Jack comes in and, kills all these people, makes them shoot each other, and Benedict gets away.
He's shooting with like a little 38, right? And he's launching people across the room.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He does got a cannon. He's got a cannon, but I'm saying he's got
car chase, right? It ended with a guy like being wired into the air instead of just
that was ridiculous.
Flying into an airbag or something. So. Anyways, the the action's ridiculous in this, but they chase Benedict out of there, and the kid gets on the bike and he's like, "I'm missing all the action. I'm in the action movie and I'm missing all the action." And then he goes and tries to play chicken with the guys. He's like, "I'm a good guy. This is gonna be no problem." So he starts hauling butt, right?
Yeah. He starts hauling butt, and then he tries to play chicken with a car on a bicycle, on a pink bicycle. No means a little kid's pink bicycle, and ends up realizing I am the comedy relief, and then basically he gets out of the way of the car real quickly and somehow ramps up enough to get on top of a house, come down that house, and then still land on his back with just a simple groan.
But with the shot with him on the bike and the moon in the background, you had to get that Amblin Entertainment / ET moment.
Well,
there.
why couldn't they have done that? Like just had him launch up in the air, I guess, with the moon in the background, just kind of a shout out.
I don't know. I guess they had to.
They did all kinds of shout outs in this movie, but they couldn't have done that one. Well, they even own the rights to the movie.
He's not even supposed to be in there, Andrew.
Yeah, I know.
I'm surprised it's not like tearing the fabric of the film reality.
It's not the true metaverse.
So Benedict gets away, and he has what's his name's wallet, the kid's wallet, Danny's wallet, and they end up going to some crappy little motel apartment place and everything. And he walks right in and he shoots the closet, and he's like, how'd you know someone's gonna be in there? And there's always someone in. I think we all had the same line with him. We all knew what he was gonna say.
But how did he not know he was in a movie like that? He's like, how do you know that you're life's? I guess his life's always been like that, so he never really noticed the difference.
And he was never grew up because it was just written that he existed.
Yeah,
he had a background.
Yeah, then he has the same exact clothes and nothing different.
He even pointed out there was a cartoon cat earlier.
Good point.
Yeah. So they're in there, and while they're doing that, the Benedict guy has the ticket. And he puts his hand through a wall, and he's starting to believe that this is real now. And he's like, oh my gosh, this is real. And then eventually he starts kind of monologuing.
Yeah.
Is that after he kills his boss?
Well, I mean,
I think it is.
Yeah, because we did skip over the whole funeral for farts and all that stuff, and he skipped over the funeral for farts, and with that one. I mean, there's really not much to talk about that funeral.
No, I mean,
right?
I think he, he figured out that Benedict, that somebody missed somebody else, when there was assassination attempt, and they killed this heavier set gentleman named Farts.
Yeah,
and apparently he used to fart a lot, so that's why they call him Farts. But what they find out is that Benedict missed on purpose to kill this guy. That way they could stuff him full of this gas that was stolen a couple days before the movie started. And then at the funeral, when you have the entire crime family there, you gas them all and you kill them. And then Benedict's boss gets to take over the whole thing.
Correct.
Right. So that whole thing kind of happened. That's the scene where you find out Practice is working with Benedict and the crime boss.
Yeah.
But they overcome him, and Danny gets a crane. And anyways, they get the body out of there. They dump it in a tar pit, and they solve that issue.
Yeah.
But after they do that, Benedict goes and kills his boss and is like, look, you're an idiot. And he's been correcting him all movies. He always says stuff like, I feel like a fourth wheel here. And the guy's like, it's fifth wheel, you idiot. Different things like that. He's always correcting him on. So he's tired of it. He knows he's in a movie now. And so he's like, okay, I don't have to deal with this anymore. I'm going to a new world.
Yeah.
And so he kills him, and then he starts talking to the camera. And you got to imagine he's just talking down the hallway or through a wall, expecting the camera to be looking at him because he believes in it now. Yeah. Now he's talking to the audience.
Unless
he knows he's in a movie.
Unless that's just his natural setting. You know what I mean? Like villain. You know how villains do that in certain movies and stuff.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like he knows that he's in a movie, but he's still stuck in that mode.
Makes me think that some of these movies can see through the screen. In this in Danny's world, some of the villain, that's why you have the breaking the fourth wall scenes, whatever, But either way, he's ready to go into the real world. Danny and Jack are, for some reason, Bridget rolls up, and with just a piece of tissue, he's able to wipe all the tar off his body that he just fell in. Hilarious.
He's like, and Danny's like, you don't find that just doesn't make any sense, basically, And
he's like, hey, we're in a movie.
Yeah.
Right? You said it. So anyway, she brings the truck. They get in the truck. They go after Benedict. They fight him in his house, or in that bad guy's house or whatever. And Benedict escapes through he doesn't escape through the wall. He gets thrown through the wall by Jack. But instead of crashing through the wall, he just goes through the portal. Yeah. And that's when Jack's like, oh my gosh, now there's a possibility that either I'm crazy or you're right. So he decides, like, look, your daughter's grown up. Your ex-wife's not here anymore. All these different things. You pretend to have somebody call you, and it's not really your ex-wife and all this. So what do you have to lose? And Jack's just like, fine, screw it. And he leaps out, and then he realizes he's in the real world. They run out of the theater, tries to shoot it. The car doesn't blow up. He punches through a glass. His fist hurts. He's getting a sense of the real world now.
Yeah.
And he's getting very depressed about it.
Yeah.
So
and the old man's being weird again. And he's just like, oh, I idolize you. Well, you shouldn't, because I found out my whole life's fake, and not real.
And he's like, being real is not everything. Politicians, and he says politicians twice and everything.
Yeah.
So anyways, Benedict gets away, obviously, and Jack plays chicken with his little henchman guy. Ends up killing him, but Jack's saved by the airbags.
Yeah.
And then they go home, and he introduces to his mom. He kind of gets a sense of the real world and talking to people as well. Because when Danny wakes up in the morning, he's like, "We've just been talking." He's like, "I've never done that," because in the movie all he does is quips, and then the next scene he's waking up in bed with somebody or whatever. So he's never actually talked with somebody before, and I don't know what he's doing up on the Empire State Building or whatever building they're on in there. I don't know if he's doing an action movie thing where they go and look out the city and suddenly they can find him.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it gives him some clarity, and he figures out that he's going there. He's going after the movies, and specifically wants to target Arnold Schwarzenegger, the guy who plays Jack Slater, thinking that if they can kill him, then Jack Slater won't exist. And I'm like, well, that's stupid, because the movie's put to film, and even after people die, that film still exists. And we still watch the movies.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't kill them.
Right.
But I guess they had to rush the ending on this.
Who knows?
That's the Rachel moment.
Yeah, it is.
I think that we got to accept that that's the Rachel moment.
There's a lot of Rachel moments on this. Like I said, if you would have believed the guy at the beginning, believe the kid.
Yeah. So whenever, what was it before? He said he was going to, Benedict was taunting them and saying, I'm going to explain everything. I think, or is this when they catch up to him? I can't remember. One of my favorite lines in this is when he's real quick at the funeral, and he's trying to get the body out of there before it explodes, and he's trying to distract people, and he goes, "Look, elephant." He doesn't say like an elephant. He just says, "Look, elephant."
Look,
His fainted. Can somebody help this man here? I think the corpse. I mean, the patient. Look, elephant.
had too much bourbon. Look, elephant.
Look, elephant.
And that had to be ad-lib. There is no way that a scriptwriter would write those words.
Knowing how funny it would sound coming out of his mouth.
That's what I'm talking about with him, though. I think it's just natural.
Yeah.
Like, it's just things that, like, who knows, like, because you see a lot of watch these movies that, they're speaking different languages, right? And then you see we get to see the words. What are they called? Captions.
Yeah, captions.
Yeah, right.
Captions.
We get to see the captions on there.
Titles.
And which is kind of cool, because in this movie we actually get to see what the chief says.
Oh, yeah, when he's like,
"Hey, but I tried to anyway."
You slipped the bell on it. Cut the toes I can take from you. I got the California Razor Cutter doing all me a virgin, and the Darren hand freight doing all me a virgin in my first cinema. Tiny Timber step going to the total. So what? You ball peen jackametas. I'll slip the bell on the second toes I can take from you. For the thing, you think to make it married, which you're never going to down the beach, go down the beach. You take the chicken off the back and stick.
None of it made sense.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm actually reading what the guy's saying, and that's exactly what it sounds like he's saying.
But it's kind of like the same way where you see a lot of the foreigners, they say jokes that like just go right over our heads. You know what I mean? As Americans.
Yeah, my other favorite line in this movie is whenever he's in the real world figuring things out, the bad guy, Benedict, and he goes and shoots somebody, and he goes, "Hello? I've just shot someone, and I did it on purpose."
Sound like some Monty Python stuff.
I'm sorry to bother you. I wonder if you'd help me test a theory.
Sure, what can I do for you?
Well... Hello? I've just shot somebody. I did it on purpose. I said I have murdered a man, and I want to confess.
Like I said, Monty Python,
Yeah, exactly. So what he's realizing is that bad guys can win in this world. In the movies, it's impossible. No matter how long you win, eventually you're going to lose.
Yeah.
But in this world, he's figuring out there's no cops coming, not for every single crime or whatever. And so people can get away with things. And so he's getting a lot bolder, and his plan is to go and use the ticket to take out like some terrible
Freddy
people.
Krueger, they actually mentioned Freddy.
Yeah, all these. So, but we find out that the only person that he did release was the Ripper,
Right.
which we saw at the beginning of the movie when Danny was watching Jack Slater 3 at the very beginning.
And Jack's son was killed
Yes,
by
and
the
Jack's,
Ripper.
yeah, he was
You
killed
don't
in that
actually
movie
get
by
to
the
find that
Ripper.
out until the end, actually, or not the end, but
Middle.
Yeah, middle to closer to the end. But you don't really get to find that out. What ended up, like, as far as we knew, his son was fine.
It was
you
his,
know?
yeah, and it was his daughter that said it, right? When
Yeah.
they were talking in the house. Yeah, I think she said that there.
Well,
but-
plus then we get a flashback when the Ripper comes in too. At the end.
So Jack figures it out and goes to the premiere of the movie where the Ripper, the actual Ripper from the movie, is there along with the actor that played him. And so he goes after Arnold Schwarzenegger, but we see that it was just a trick by the Ripper. He knew that he didn't want Arnold; he wanted Jack, and so he knew that that Jack would come after him. He went up to the roof and took Danny with him, just like he did his son. Mm-hmm. And so he has to fight him again, and the dude just immediately, as soon as Arnold gets up there, he throws Danny off the roof and is like, "There, that's out of the way now. Let's fight."
Yeah.
And so Jack fights him and eventually kills him, electrocutes him, and everything. And then he looks over and he sees Danny hanging from that little building ledge or whatever. Yeah. And as he's going to try to save him, you can hear Arnold say,
Hold on, Danny, and don't look down.
Oh, God, please don't let him die.
He goes from badass person like he was at the beginning, nothing can hurt me, to now this flawed guy where he's like, please don't let me die. And I thought that was like one of the the best parts of the movie, really, is that honesty in that character. As silly as this movie's been, you have a bit of like seriousness from a character that's like just realizes for the first time in his life that he can die. I thought that was cool. So before he when it's time to take on Benedict, he says stuff like what is it? Let me tell you the plot and everything. And they go on to there's a couple of things like reference back to The Incredibles and the monologuing that these people do. But he gets shot by Benedict, and but Benedict ended up getting killed, and Danny gets Jack back into the movie screen by taking an ambulance hostage. And he's about to die, and then the doctor comes over and he's like, "What, are you kidding me? This is just a flesh wound," because he's back in the movie now. So Danny goes back to his world, and Slater's like, "Look, I'm good. I just need to know that you're out there believing in me, and I can keep doing this, and I'll know, you'll know that I'm in here doing what I need to be doing."
Yep. So Arnold gets the pep talk. He gets all the good stuff happen to him. He gets his job back. He gets his life back. He gets his family back, and then Danny gets back to the way he was living anyways.
And his mom doesn't know much, and they're still living kind of rough and all that kind of stuff. But he'll always have the Jack Slater movies, and maybe everything that happened at the premiere will cause more buzz for it, and they'll start making more movies so Jack can have more adventures. And then they'll turn him, because remember they said there was less violence in this new one?
Yeah.
And the next one, there won't be hardly any, because remember, he's a changed man. That doesn't do all that
they already
stuff
made
again.
it part 2. It's called Kindergarten Cop.
You mean part 5?
Yeah.
Kindergarten Cop, yeah. I don't know. He was pretty rough at the beginning of that movie, remember?
Yeah.
The full shadow, and
that's what I'm
he's
saying.
all rough and everything.
Yeah, Kindergarten Cop. Now he teaches kids.
It's rough.
Yeah.
That's the movie.
Yep.
Great movie.
Yeah.
If you go into it with the right mindset and just like go into it nowadays, where let's kind of rip on the 90s while also have fun with them.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite part of this movie?
Where she's beating up that dude and screaming. I thought that was awesome.
Why was that your favorite part?
It was just funny. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was.
She did it with such a deadpan face. Yeah, she had such a deadpan face, like she was a killer.
She was. She's like, "Oh, big mistake."
Yeah,
that was pretty. And she had some Sonya Blade moves.
Yeah, she did.
Too,
She did. That was pretty awesome.
Flipping these dudes and everything.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. I think that part where he was, fighting Benedict at the end, and he's like, "Don't let me die." I think that's probably my favorite part, because that hit me right here. So, all right, guys, if you get a chance to watch this, it's on Netflix. Give it a chance. It's a fun movie. Don't expect anything great, and simply fantastic, amazing, whatever. It's a basic 80s, 90s movie. action movie with a twist, and it makes it kind of interesting if you are willing to have fun with it. So if you guys want to get a hold of us, we're on all social media at The Post Credit Podcast. Except for Twitter, we're at The Post Credit. Our email address is thepostcreditpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website. It's www.thepostcreditpodcast.com, and we're on YouTube. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next time.
And throw me a bone.